From 7:19 to 10 o'clock, I saw one doe go through. From 10 o'clock till now, I have seen 6 deer, and one of them was a little 4-point. It just changes the dynamic. So if you're in the woods and it happens to be bad conditions and it, potentially forcing the deer to bed down, if the sun comes out, stay in your stand. You won't be disappointed. As you watch this video, I would like to mention to you that I actually shot this footage only 10 to 15 minutes after doing an interview at my tree stand. Now, I self-film, so there's no one else out in the woods with me, so I'm talking loud just like I am now because one of my commitments is to never whisper on these videos. So talking in a normal voice, I just concluded that interview and this little 4-point still came through. But it just goes to show you how dramatic weather pattern changes can either get the deer up on their feet or keep them bedded down. A couple more points I would like to make about this buck is the fact that he's very young. I would estimate his age at 1.5 years old. And the way we derive that, if you're not familiar with it, is white-tailed deer are most often born in May. And then in gun season, which typically starts in November, that's about 6 months out, that's when they get harvested, so that's their age. So thereafter, you just add 1 year to that half, and they're 1.5, 2.5, or 3.5 years old. The other point I'd like to make is the fact that on the does, when they came through, and you watched that video footage, they were feeding heavily. Not once did I see this buck forage on the acorns or the green vegetation that was around him. He was sniffing. And it's obvious he could smell the does and where they had been and where they were walking. It's almost like this young buck has the rut on his mind. And we're over 6 weeks or more out from our prime deer movement in my home state. So it was a little puzzling that he didn't feed on anything. He basically worked his way around, sniffing and smelling, and then he eventually crossed the creek and headed in a different direction. But it's very interesting to watch these deer and to learn as you watch them and as you make videos while you're hunting in the woods. It's always educational every time you go out and deer hunt. To see that many deer, I'm really pumped up about this location that I've got. So I'm gonna get down, go grab some lunch, and hopefully try to get back in here this afternoon. Maybe we'll do some good. Maybe we'll see that ghost I've been searching for. I did a couple videos on trying to find a ghost, and my definition of a ghost is a mature buck. Now, I could have shot the 4-point, I could have shot these does, and like I said, the does will have to harvest some of those just to do some management and put some meat in the freezer, But to me, that mature buck, 2.5 and older, most states show that about 70 to 80% of the white-tailed bucks that are harvested every year are 1.5 years old. Okay, probably like that little 4-point that I saw go through this morning. So I'm looking for a 2.5 or older, preferred at 3.5 and up. That's the ghost I'm looking for. Maybe we'll get one to come in tonight. Here's some additional footage that I shot a couple days later on an afternoon hunt. I decided to go back into National Forest and move about 100 to 200 yards closer to the bedding area than I had before. When you're hunting on the ground like I am today, it's very difficult, especially with the bow. There's so much the deer can see as far as your movement, smell, and hear versus when you're in a tree stand. It's much more difficult to harvest a deer this way, but it's tremendously rewarding whenever it comes together like this. As you can tell from this footage, this is obviously a young deer, younger than the 4-point. I would estimate his age at 6 months old. Definitely not a shooter, but I'm more than happy to see him. Hunting's not just about making the harvest or making the kill. It's about the journey. All the activities, all the time, all the effort that you put into it to get to that culminating point when you're finally face to face with the animal that you've been chasing for so many weeks or in some cases so many months. It's a tremendously challenging endeavor to take upon, especially in national forests, when you have very little control over what takes place. But once you get there, it's very rewarding.